So yeah, I'm very thankful to be here. And I want to extend thanks to all y'all for supporting these works. I've been on this tribe for about 20 years now. 20 years I've been working with the Mineral Nation. Never my intention, but just being obedient and dutiful. And that's what got me here to this point. As the Brethren Ankh had mentioned, in the year 2000, I did scribe a book called Rocks of Ages, Ancient Technologies for the New Millennium. Ancestors really just put it on my heart to research our use of crystals and sacred stones. Because, well, at the time I didn't even know why. And I'm still seeking the deeper reasonings why I'm on this path, you know. But I do know that 2008, these are some powerful times that we're in. We're in a countdown to 2012, which, you know, they say our Father's house has many mansions, so we have to study many traditions. And in the Mayan Olmec tradition, the winter solstice of 2012 is like a judgment time. So we're like 4 years, less than what? 4 years and counting. So we really have to be in tune with ourselves, in tune with the earth, empowered spiritually, and that is in line with the works with the crystals and sacred stones. So I really give thanks for the Brethren Mikael for hosting and as well as facilitating some multimedia, because I do have a lot of image to share along with the words. So the way I kind of vision the evening is it's going to kind of be in three sections. The first one we're going to kind of just deal with like the science of what is a crystal and why is it important. And then we're going to look at how our ancestors in the Nile Valley dealt with this science. And then we're going to seal it up with just looking at some amazing creations of the earth and amazing representations of the Mineral Nation. All right? So when we say what is a crystal, you know, we might as well start with like what they say, the textbook definition. All right? Because a crystal is really any matter. It doesn't even matter. It could be carbon, it could be silica, it could be sodium. The type of matter doesn't it doesn't really matter. But any matter that has organized molecules or organized molecular structure is a crystal. Okay? So matter basically comes together in one of two ways. One way is what they call amorphous, meaning without form. So the molecules are just randomly composed, right? Then the other way is crystalline. And that is, again, like we say, any matter that has an organized molecular makeup. And the thing with that order and that organization is that the order in which the molecules come together is reflected in the shape and the geometrics of the actual crystal. So, you know, we say this is cut by nature. When we look at these things, it looks like some intelligence crafted these things, and it is, but it's a divine intelligence. It's not cut by the hand of man, but by the mind of creation, the mind of God, you know. So, you know, these are just some nice specimens to behold. And here's an example of this molecular structure that we was talking about. So up top is an example of how you might find molecules in an arranged, organized pattern. Here you have them just randomly distributed. And let's reason on a couple of examples in nature real quick. One I like to reason on is water, because water freezes in two ways. Ice, which is amorphous, all right? So now, when we freeze ice, the molecules don't arrange or organize themselves. So it's amorphous, without form. So what form does the ice take? Whatever vessel we put it in when we freeze it, right? The other way water freezes is what? A snowflake, all right? And a snowflake, when you think of a snowflake, you see a snowflake has symmetry, right? So what's on the left side is on the right side, what's on the top is on the bottom. It has balance, and you see the order and the structure of the way those molecules coming together reflected in the entire snowflake, right? So, but however, when we talk, like when you say crystal, right, more often than not, what people are speaking on is what's called quartz crystal, right? For a couple of reasons. One is what it's made up of, silica and oxygen, silica dioxide. And silica is one of the most abundant elements in the Earth's crust. 32% of the Earth's crust, 1/3 of the Earth's crust is made of silica. So y'all are in a silica-rich region. What's silica-rich down here? Sand. The sand, absolutely. So because silica is in abundance, quartz is in an abundance. So more often than not, when people speak of crystal, this is what they're speaking of, all right? But this is the crystalline form of silica dioxide. What's the amorphous form of silica dioxide? And we see it and use it daily, multiple times throughout the day. Glass. Glass. So glass is to ice as a snowflake is to quartz crystal. You know? Whereas glass, you can melt the sand and form it in any shape you need. You can make it a windshield, a glass of water, whatever you want to shape that glass into, you can, just as if it was ice. But quartz will usually only grow a certain way. It'll grow hexagonal. It'll have a six-sided nature to its body, and it'll always come to a peak or a termination, okay? Just like a snowflake will always have his, you know, and just like every crystal is different, you'll never find the same, you'll never find an identical crystal, the same way you'll never find an identical snowflake, but they all still are formed by the same omniversal laws. And so they all have an affinity and likeness with one another. Yeah, here's some more examples of like how random molecules may appear versus organized molecules, you know? But now, why is this important? Why is it important? Why, you know, so what? The molecules are organized. Organized, and just, we know within ourselves, when we are organized, we're a force to reckon with. When we're disorganized, we have no energy potential. We can't do nothing. We're in a state of chaos. Wow. So the same way on a human level is the same way on a molecular level. That when you have molecules that come together in an organized way, it gives that crystal energy potential. So when you see this, molecularly, this is what you're looking at. And that gives this energy potential. All right? And when we say energy potential, what we mean is that crystals can either generate, transmit, conduct, or broadcast either radiant energy, which is like light, radio waves, any energy that's going to move, or electromagnetic energy, something that is like a current that's going to run through power lines. So that's why crystals are important. Okay? But now, I'll probably hit that in a second. Yeah, I actually will, because now Bobby Wrong is aware of this. Bobby Wrong is aware of the energy potential in crystals, and they use it in their technology. As a matter of fact, all modern technological gadgets is based on crystal technology. Okay? Computers is quartz. It's the CPU, the microchip, the micro processor is a silicon wafer that, because of the energy potential, I'm going to get deeper into the energy potential of quartz in a minute, but quartz is a semiconductor of power frequencies. And so a semiconductor is a material that alternates between conducting and insulating. But the thing is, it does it in a rhythm. So for real, what that microprocessor is doing in the computer, it's like beating a drum. It's like playing a drum. It's a certain rhythm. And that's what they call the binary code. On, off, on, off, on, off. But it's doing it like 1,000,000 times a second. If it's a gigahertz processor, it's beating at 1,000,000 times. Okay, 1,000,000,000,000 times a second. And they organize those rhythms. They organize the rhythms in bits and bytes. So in groups of 8, they block the beats in groups of 8. So like a off, 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 on, off might mean something in binary code, you know? And that's how they set up the computer. Lasers, when you see that red light in the CD players and the laser pointers, yeah, that's a ruby crystal. That's a ruby crystal that they're using to organize the light. Because ruby crystal, when you pass light through the ruby crystal, it'll organize the light. And that's how, and it's what they call coherence. It makes the light coherent. So the light's just not a random waveform moving throughout, but it's like a beam, a coherent, organized beam. Radios, TVs, cell phones, all telecommunication uses another power of quartz that it's a resonator. A resonator is a material that can match an external frequency. So we have a broadcast antenna like Power 99. I don't know what y'all, like a station down here, but y'all probably got like a Power 99 or something like that. Hot 105, all right. So Hot 105 is broadcasting at 105 megahertz. And because crystals are resonators, when you turn that dial, the crystal in your radio is matching the frequency of 105 megahertz. It's resonating at the same frequency as that broadcast antenna, and that's what allows you to get the signal. Yeah, so Bobby Wrong is well aware of the energy potential of crystals. okay? But just like they take the whole grain and make the white wheat, they take the sugar cane and make the white sugar. They take the goodness of creation, right? Sugar cane got iron and, you know, all good nutrients in it, but by the time they process it, it's a dangerous drug, you know, dangerous toxic poison. They take the whole wheat, and by the time they finish with it, you know, you got the wonder bread, you know, whatever, you know. Right, you wonder what it is, you know. But, so just how they denature and toxify food is the same way they denature and toxify these crystal technologies. I'm saying, and let me take my cell phone off my person because, yeah, these things more time are toxic for us. The energy, the frequencies that these things resonate with are not good for our spirit, not good for our mind, not good for our body over time, you know? So just like you can't deal the white bread and the white sugar, and you got to deal the whole grain and the molasses, same way. If we're going to deal with technologies, we need to deal with the natural technology of using the crystals in their natural state and mastering the vibrations within us. And why is it important to master the vibrations within us and around us? Because everything in creation is vibration. It doesn't matter if it's the highest, fastest moving cosmic radiation or the densest, heaviest form of matter you can imagine. When you look at it at its essential nature, it's a vibrational frequency. And we are vibrational frequencies, you know? And if you're not in control of your vibrations, you're not in control of your reality. And scriptures say this is not a battle of flesh and blood, but of spiritual wickedness in high and low places. And that's what this is speaking to. Yes, sir. That when you really look at the ultimate levels of control, they got to control the frequency. Yes, sir. And when you look at an ultimate level of liberation or free mind, you have to deal with the frequency same way. Yeah, so you know what, this is just a little more enlightenment on the types of crystals, because there's actually 12 crystal types within creation, and these are the names of them. All right, so you got some we can vision just from our common knowledge, a cube, pyramid, but a scalenohedron. This is a crystal where the sides are all uneven. A dodecahedron is a 12-sided crystal. Dodeca is 2 and 10. And hedron is side. When you see hedron, that means side. Pentagonal, that's a 5-side, that's a five-faceted, 12-sided. Rhombic dodecahedron is 4-faceted, 12-sided. Tetrahedron is 4-sided, octahedron 8-sided. And here's some examples. So here's an octahedron crystal, and here's magnetite. This is more often than not the magnets we get aren't natural. There's 2 types of natural magnets. One is lodestone, and the other is magnetite. All right, so these are examples of magnetite. And really the only difference between lodestone and magnetite is that magnetite has an octahedron shape. All right? These are different examples of calcite that manifest some of those other forms. So here's a rhombohedron, and here's a scalenohedron. And all of these forms are calcite. Calcite is basically calcium, carbon, and oxygen, and it manifests in a wide variety of colors and crystal forms. Six-sided pyramid is what quartz grows in, but also your stones like emeralds and your beryls, aquamarine, topaz. Tourmaline. That's a good question. I'm not sure if tourmaline is six-sided. I'm not really sure. Yeah, now some crystals are very mysterious. There's an celestial quartz, and you can see the face of the African imprinted with the locks, the eyes, nose, mouth, beard. So some crystals are very mysterious. Here's a crystal that has, it's almost like a Star David frequency, where the big facet is a trinity facing up, and it has a next trinity going the other way. And here's a crystal with amazing inner worlds and a little parallelogram on it. Yeah. So yeah, can we like just minimize that for a second? Tune the light. Yeah. So. You say turn off? Or? Yeah, if we could just blacken it for a minute. So this is just like a good introduction as far as like the science of what is a crystal and why is it important for us to deal with, you know? But we as African people, we have a long tradition of working with the crystals. And we talked about that energy potential that crystals have. And I'm going to go more in depth in it, but generally speaking, what you could say about quartz crystal is that it's a multi-spectrum energy manipulator, meaning that quartz, there's several forms of energy. You know, you got the electromagnetic spectrum, that the highest frequencies in that spectrum are like cosmic, gamma rays, then you got X-rays, ultraviolet light, optical light, infrared light, which is heat, and then, you know, it moves on down in the power frequencies, magnetism, and then it actually moves down into the sound and the sonic range, right? But almost every level of that spectrum, quartz does something with that energy. Okay, so it's it deals with a lot of different frequencies. And why is that important for us? Is, remember we said everything in creation is vibration. And it seems like within creation, the Creator made certain materials that have that power to be able to manipulate and deal and transform a wide spectrum of energies. One of those materials is chlorophyll. Okay? Chlorophyll. And what is chlorophyll? Chlorophyll is green pigment of the plant. It's what empowers the plant to be able to take light from the sun and transform it into nutrition for its body, and in turn bless the ecosystem that it's a part of. Okay? Another one of those materials is melanin. Chlorophyll is to the plant that melanin is to the human. And melanin, okay, it's our pigment, right, that gives us the ability to take radiant energy from the sun, transform it into nourishment for our body. It's what allows us to take sound vibrations, right? Because when we lick the drum, when we chant the song, don't we feel it? Doesn't it nourish us? Right. So it allows us to take that sound energy and transform it into nourishment of our body, right? So we got chlorophyll, we got melanin, and then the next one is quartz crystal. Chlorophyll is to the plant that melanin is to the human, that quartz crystal is for the earth as a whole. All right? So, there's a principle, another principle within creation that's called synergy. Synergy. All right? Syn means, I know it means a lot of things, but in this sense it's S-Y-N. And it means together. And energy, you know, synergy implies like bringing energy potentials together. And the principle of synergy says this: if I got something that has a certain energy potential, and energy potential means able to do some works, able to do something, able to manifest. So I have something that has a certain energy potential. And I got a next something that has a certain energy potential. If I bring those two things together to do the works, the energy potential available to me will be quantumly greater than if I just use the one over here, use the other one over here, and then try to add up them works. All right? So this that I just shared with you, this is our historic lens. This is our paradigm that we're going to look at the Nile Valley and our ancestors and how they used crystals and sacred stones. And it might give us insight into some of the unexplainable phenomena of ancient Kemet, how we were a monolithic, megalithic people able to build a sphinx out of one stone. The sphinx is like Lalibela. It's carved out of one stone. Pyramid formed in 2-ton megalithic stones with no mortar. Just the cut is so precise, that's what hold it firm. For how long? How long it's been there? You know? So this is our paradigm. So we ready for the next one. Are there any questions before we move forward? Yes.
One of the different types of crystals that you mentioned before, it says
Scalenohedron.
Is that synonymous to what they're doing with the scalar technology? Is that word sound?
Right, the scale. Nah, to be honest, I don't know the relationship between a scalenohedron and them scalar waves, but I know what you're talking about. But I think it's more like a scalene triangle. You know how you have like a 30, 60, 90 triangle? They call it scalene because none of the sides and none of the angles are equal, but it all still adds up with that proper mathematics. So that's how I think the scalenohedrons are. All right? So now this is a presentation that I shared at an ASCAC conference that looks at the melanin quartz synergy as a historical paradigm. All right? So, yeah, we've been talking about technology, and we talked about technology from like a Bobby Wrong vantage point. But what we're dealing with is a spiritual technology. All right? When we say spirit or spiritual, you know, it's simple. We're just talking about life force energy. Life force. Okay? Molecularly, they would say life force is the magnetic ion or the free. I say magnetic ion, but you might hear them call it negative ion. But see, negative and positive has too much connotation. Negative has too much negative connotation. So I don't like to say negative ion, but it's a magnetically charged ion. In other words, it's an electron. If you can envision a molecule, you know, you have the nucleus, and then you have electrons that orbit around, all right? So imagine one of those electrons free from a molecular bond and magnetically charged. Not, like the moon?
That's how they look at it. That's how they look at it.
I would give the moon a magnetic polarity. So that magnetic ion is what moves through our blood as plasma. And that is like our life force. All right? But, you know, that's like the scientific blah, blah, blah. But for real, it's life force. It don't really need an explanation or a definition. If you breathe and you feel life, you know life. So spirit is life force energy, and technology just means using tools. The study of anytime you see ology, that's study of. Technology is the science of using tools. So when we talk about spiritual technology, we're talking about a science or study of using tools to generate, enhance, harmonize life force. And yeah, the Kemites, them dealt with two main tools in their spiritual technology: sacred stones and their melanin. All right, and why I kind of introduced this, that both melanin and in particular quartz crystal are multi-spectrum conductive materials. And these are materials that can simultaneously act as a superconductor, conductor, semiconductor, or resonator of various forms of electromagnetic energy. All right? And real quick, a superconductor is any material that will allow energy to move through it without offering any resistance. It offers no resistance to the energy moving through it. All right? A conductor allows energy to move through it, but it offers some resistance. Okay? So for example, copper wire is a conductor of power frequencies, but it doesn't superconduct the power frequencies. It offers some resistance to that electrical current moving through the wire. And how do we experience that resistance? Heat. So when the wire is getting hot, that's showing you that it's resisting some of the energy moving through it. A semiconductor, I mentioned the semiconductor already. A semiconductor is a material that will alternate between conducting and insulating. And more often than not, semiconductors will do that. They'll do that alternation in a unalterable rhythmic pattern. Okay? And then a resonator. I mentioned a resonator. A resonator is a material that'll match an external frequency and hold that same frequency as the external frequency and resonate with it. Okay? So now, here's a compare and contrast of quartz and melanin as these multi-spectrum conductors. Quartz crystal superconducts these forms of electromagnetic energy, cosmic radiation, ultraviolet energy, and the geomagnetic fields, meaning these energies can move through quartz, and quartz will offer no resistance to it. Okay? Quartz is a semiconductor to power frequencies. We reasoned on this already. This is how they use quartz in the computers, because the quartz alternates between conducting and insulating, and it does it in a rhythmic pattern, so it's like it's in there playing a drum beat, and that's what they call the binary code. And they inform that binary code, give them different beats, certain meaning, and that's how you get that whole computer technology. Quartz crystal is a conductor of visible light and heat. So it allows these things to move through it, but it offers some resistance. When quartz crystal offers resistance to visible light going through it, how do we experience that?
Reflection.
Yeah, absolutely. A prism. Well, when light moves through a prism, what does it do? It refracts and becomes rainbows, and we see the different colors. All right? And, yeah, infrared is heat, and quartz is a resonator of radio waves. We reasoned on this. All right? That's how we can tune in to power 105. All right? So now let's compare that with melanin. Melanin superconducts all of these forms of radiation. Cosmic radiation, ultraviolet radiation, infrared, microwaves, radio waves, and geomagnetic energy. Okay? Melanin semiconducts sound and heat energy. Melanin conducts the body's ionic charge, or its life force, that magnetic ion that we was reasoning on. And melanin is a resonator of visible light. Why is that important? If melanin resonates with visible light, what quality of melanin does that give it? It's color. It's color. All right? All right, we reasoned on this. We reasoned on synergy. That, you know, I got my melanin, right? So just by birthright, the Most High has blessed me with the potential to do certain works. But when I combine that potential with the potential of crystals, and particularly quartz, the potential that I have is quantumly greater than if I was just dealing with my melanin on the solo. Yeah, and this is the proper historical paradigm to study ancient Nile Valley civilization. A lot of things that are a mystery in ancient Kemite, and to the ancient Kemites, to us, like why did they go to such lengths to preserve the bodies? They took the organs out, put sacred stones in, and then would go through painstaking effort to wrap the body to preserve the skin. Why? Okay? This is the paradigm to explain a lot of the mysteries of our ancestors. And these two mysteries in particular are initiation practices and our burial practices. All right, as far as our initiation practices, our tradition on how we would bring someone into their full humanity, right? Bring a man from a youth and then bring him into his full humanity. Is preserved in the book that Wallace Budge called the Book of the Dead, Egyptian Book of the Dead. But I called it the Book of Coming Forth by Day from Night. And this is a very important book. And this melanin quartz paradigm, this melanin quartz synergy, is the proper way to interpret the book of Coming Forth by Day. Because the way that book is set up, each chapter is a prayer. Each chapter is a prayer. And after the prayer is what's called a rubric. And a rubric would be like the priestly instructions as far as what to do when the prayer was being chanted. And more often than not, these were the rites that we would do to bring someone into their full humanity. So let's look at a couple of these important chapters. Okay, this is just explaining the setup of the book. Yeah, so this is one chapter of transformation into a god. And this is how it reads. I have taken possession of the Uraret crown. Ma'at is in my body. Her mouth is of turquoise and rock crystal. My homestead is among the furrows, which is lapis lazuli. So when I read, Ma'at is in my body, her mouth is turquoise and rock crystal, what does that tell me? That tells me they were implanting crystals into the body and using these as vehicles through which they could commune with the natural order of creation. And now let's meditate on who Ma'at is and what she represented. Ma'at embodied truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, and order. Ma'at is universal order, right? She's omniversal order. And the beauty of order, if you in order, and the judgment that comes if you out of order. So that's what Ma'at embodied, right? So, what better instrument, what better thing to have to allow Ma'at to speak to you and speak, through, other than a crystal. Why? Because what do we say a crystal is? Anything with what? An organized molecular structure. Somebody asked me to repeat that? A crystal is anything that has an organized molecular structure. Anything where the molecules are in order is a crystal. Okay? And remember that turquoise. We're going to reason deeper on the turquoise and the melanin connection in a minute. All right, here's another chapter. A buckle of carnelian. This is, do I got some carnelian? I got a carnelian bracelet. Carnelian, this was called the blood of Auset in the Nile Valley. This was the blood of Auset. And it's basically silica, oxygen, and iron. But this is how this chapter reads. The triumphant Asar Anu says, the blood of Auset, the enchantments of Auset, the power of Auset are a protection of this chief, and it destroys what I abhor. And the rubric or the priestly instructions that followed this chapter. This chapter shall be said over a buckle of red jasper, which has been dipped in water of oncom flowers and inlaid with sycamore wood, and has been placed on the neck of the Shining One. That's what they called one who was going through the initiation, a Shining One. If this chapter be inscribed upon it, shall become the power of Aset, and it shall protect him. And Haru, the son of Ashet, shall rejoice when he sees it. No way shall be impassable to him. And one hand shall extend on to heaven, and the other on to earth. If this chapter be known, he shall be among those who follow Asar-un-Nefer triumphant. The gates of the underworld shall be opened unto him, and the homestead shall be given unto him, together with the wheat and the barley, and the second Aru. And the followers of Haru, who reap therein, shall proclaim his name as one of the gods who are therein. Okay? So you can see in this initiation process of the process of I and I becoming fully human, one of the things they would give us to keep us protected in our journeys would be a necklace made with carnelian that was inlaid in sycamore wood and blessed with oncom flowers, and we had these prayers chanted over it. Okay? Here's the rubric from Soul and Body. These words are to be said over a soul of gold inlaid with precious stones and placed on the breast of Osar. Okay? So, we see that our ancestors dealt with this science, you know, and did it without apology. Because we know some of us got spookism in our minds and our hearts. Sad to say. Some of us got spookism in our minds and our hearts. And they scared of it. They scared of these things. They scared of their own powers. Because Bobby Wrong tell us to be good Christians, we can't deal with these things. You know? This is right. Here's some examples of how the Kemites adorn themselves. This is an image of Nekbet, fashioned in gold and carnelian and turquoise and different quartz. This is an image of Ra Herukuti with gold, lapis, carnelian, and turquoise. And remember lapis, remember turquoise, because we're going to reason on these things in a minute. This is an arc of gold inlaid with lapis and feldspar, which is basically moonstone, supporting a crescent and disc of electrum, which is a blend of gold and silver. Okay? And that was, the Kemites actually valued silver more than gold. And usually when they used silver, they actually used gold as like the alloy to blend it up. And that metal was called electrum. And electrum, so we know it's powers. You know? The chain is made of beads of carnelian, moonstone, lapis, and gold. The beads you see going up. This is a powerful amulet right here. I studied this enough time. It's fashioned out of gold inlaid with carnelian, lapis, calcite, and turquoise. And this crescent is of pure silver. The crescent, the highest crescent. All of these was found in Tut-Ankh-Amen's burial chamber. All right? The boy king of the 18th dynasty. These are samples of various amulets. Onyx was another stone used in the Nile Valley. Ivory. Lapis was a favorite. We're going to reason why in a minute. Here's another image of Tut-Ankh-Amen as the crouching king. And the only thing he has adorned is carnelian and colored quartz around his neck. That's solid gold. All right, now, I told y'all, keep in your heavens, lapis, turquoise, what was, oh yeah, we kind of already reasoned on carnelian. Carnelian is quartz based. But the chemites, before I go on, let's reason a little bit on melanin, the chemical elements that are important in melanin. Melanin has 3 elements in it that are very, very important. All right? Those elements are carbon, copper, and sulfur. All right? And there's enough brethren who are like melanin scientists, one in particular, Carol Barnes, and what's the elder mommy? The elder mommy, Francis Cress Wilson, give thanks. And they've really studied melanin in a fullness, all right? And even the brethren, is a next brethren.
Richard King?
Yeah, Richard King, but there's a next brethren, I want to say he's out of Ohio, and I can't recall his name. But this brethren studied the chemical differentiation of melanin based on those 3 elements that I just mentioned, and said there's actually 3 types of melanin. Okay, the first is called eumelanin, EU melanin, which basically just means real melanin or true melanin. And that's a copper-based melanin, carbon-based melanin. That is the carbon-based melanin. And it's characterized by the rich blackness in the pigment. Okay? And so that eumelanin, carbon is the predominant element. And that's why it's black. Because we know anytime how do we see carbon in nature? Like charcoal, right? You think soil, you find carbon in nature, like decomposing organic material is what? It's like elemental carbon. It come when rich. Say what?
When a storm is coming, it's black. With lightning.
Yes. Yes. So, carbon, what does carbon do for melanin? Carbon is what allows melanin to absorb and take on energy and remain stable and not break down. All right? That's very important. But then there's 2 other types of melanin too, and it's called pheomelanin, which means like melanin. All right? And one is copper-based. And these are our red brethren and sistren. The brethren and sistren that you, like, when I think of the copper-based melanin, I automatically think of El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, Detroit Red, how the man had red hair and a red tint, and they would call it copper tone, right? And what does copper do in melanin? Copper does in melanin what copper does in electronics. It's a conductor. It allows electricity or that ionic charge, because we're electric, right? Because when they want to know what our brain is doing, what do? They hook up the EEG that reads the electric impulses in our brain, right? So what's conducting that electrical charge within us? It's the copper in our melanin, all right? And the third is the sulfur-based melanin, all right? And these are our golden and our yellow brethren and sistren, okay? And what does sulfur do in our melanin? sulfur is the heat regulator of the body. Okay? Any spicy food, onion, garlic, pepper, high sulfur content. All right? And you know what them say about we? It's true. When we come together, we generate heat. Why? Because we have sulfur in us. All right? And, but now, each one of these melanins has its, like, positive attributes and its challenges, right? For example, the sulfur, well, I'm going to start with the carbon. The carbon, are highly pigmented brethren and sistren. They have the power to absorb massive amounts of energy, right? But they can become easily toxified because that carbon, it'll absorb. You think when we go to the fish store, we got a little fish tank, right? And we want to run the filter. What do we put in the filter? Activated charcoal. Why? Because it absorbs all of the impurities in the water. And then we can just change the filter, and then the water's fresh. But our carbon melanated brethren, this is why the crack hit us real hard. This is why the junk food kill our youth really, you know, because when we ingest toxins, it binds to our melanin, and it's very hard to get out. And it hits us deeply. It hits us at our power. All right? Our copper people, them say like a redhead is a hothead. Yeah, because when you got a lot of energy moving through you, you got to be extra disciplined. Because if that energy gets unleashed and you undisciplined with it, you're going to be like Detroit Red, in jail for what? You know? It took the man to have to go to jail to learn some basic discipline. Our sulfur-based brethren and sistren, we have a lot of issues with dis-ease and inflammations, fever, boils, all them type of things. And it's very important that our sulfur-based brethren are, you know, proper with their eating too, because otherwise they'll have like those heat-related disorders, you know, fever, inflammation, boil, right? But now, all these things was happening in the Nile Valley too. And they would use carbon-based stones, copper-based stones, sulfur-based stones to harmonize, okay? So those feldspars, moonstone, labradorite, carbon-based stones, malachite, azurite, chrysocolla, turquoise, copper-based stone, pyrite, and lapis lazuli, sulfur-based stones. And these were the favorites of the ancient Kemites. And so, again, why are we saying this? Because it wasn't coincidental. It wasn't just like Tutankhamun was like, I just like lapis because it's blue. You know, it was science behind which stones they chose to deal with. We already reasoned on this, just like summarizing that. Yeah, so this is restating what I just kind of reasoned on. Carbon-based stones tend to improve melanin's ability to absorb energy, bind elements, yet retain a balanced, healthy structure. This gives carbon-based stones anti-carcinogenic, anti-aging, anti-mutagenic properties. And some carbon-based stones is azurite. Azurite is copper carbonate. So it has copper and carbon. Calcite, malachite, feldspar. All right. Copper-based stones tend to electrify melanin and tends to increase melanin's ionic potential, stimulates melanin to produce an abundance of free electrons for the body. Copper-based stones also stimulate melanin production. Copper-based stones include azurite, chalcopyrite, chrysocolla, copper, malachite, and turquoise. Yes, sulfur-based stones tend to cleanse and purify melanin. All right? Now, how does our body, when we have a fever, what's our body doing? It say what? We say, Brethren? The temperature goes up. Our body is acting like a self-cleaning oven. When you have a self-cleaning oven, what you do? You close the door, you lock it off, you can't use it, and then what? It goes to like, what, 500? I don't know how hot it gets, but it gets really hot and burns off all the toxins. So then all you got to do is come with a paper towel, wipe it down, and you're done. Your oven's clean. Melanin does the same thing, and that's what we experience as fever, boils, inflammations. Okay? That's really what's happening within the body. And sulfur stones help us deal that, but not let it take, because, you know, like youth and elders, this process could take them out. Or if you're really in a highly toxic or immune compromised condition, this process might take you out. So these stones were used to help us deal that cleansing and still be here. Gypsum, lapis, pyrite, and then just straight sulfur. Yeah, and then beyond those stones we just mentioned, they use enough metals, because we know metals are conductors. Okay? So they use the gold. Gold is a electric polarized or positive polarized metal. Along with copper, copper and gold have the same polarity. Silver is a magnetic polarity. It resonates with the moon. Someone had mentioned how the moon has a magnetic polarity, and silver is on that same frequency. Say what? Yes.
After silver is on the moon.
Huh.
That's why China is going there shortly today.
Huh. Yes, Empress.
China is going there 2025.
We'll see.
Bill on the moon. China.
Yes, sister.
I was going to say, all this, the crystal in the middle, all this is outward on the body. And my question is the metal. They say that heavy metal can cause poison in the human body. But is any of those metal in small doses good to use internally?
Yeah. I think they call it monatomic gold and monatomic silver. Right.
What about
Yeah.
colloidal silver?
I think that's the same thing, colloidal silver. I've never worked with it. My feeling is when we wear these elements and sweat, our body does that same chelating process of just taking, you know, one atom from it and us absorbing it. So that's how I tend to use them. But I do know that,
For her benefit,
yes.
The body does has all of those minerals. They call them macrotrace minerals. The body consists of them, and they're all in nature also. But the body only uses them in minute amounts. The gold and the silver and the out there.
Give thanks.
Have you ever heard of edible gold?
Edible gold, I think that's what we're talking about. They call it monatomic. Monatomic gold. Yes.
And you know, it's very deep. Like in Africa, when they're using something for protection, they use gold and silver combined. Like you'll see, like maybe a silver ring with a gold piece on it. They, when it's a protection ring,
They use that
always
balance.
gold. Yeah, they never just have one element. Yeah.
Yes, I. Yes, I. So yeah, they use enough gold. This is just rows of little gold amulets. All right, now here's the next science of the Nile Valley. They call it mummification, but we called it the making of an immortal body. The making of an immortal body, or a karas. All right, what is an immortal body? All right, what does our body do? What is our body doing? Our body is wearing out, but yeah, as we live in, right. Our body is conducting our life force. Without our body, our life force would just be, it wouldn't be grounded. It wouldn't be here on earth. So our bodies are the vehicle through which our life force can be grounded and be here, right? So an immortal body is a body that can just do that for, what, eternity? For a very long time. A superconductive vehicle for life force energy to be grounded and active on earth. So, again, this paradigm, this historical lens that we're dealing with, this is the proper, you know, like an Egyptologist, a Wallace Budge would say, the pharaohs were so vain. They wanted their name to be remembered forever. So they made the mummies and they built these pyramids to, you know, so that they would be found thousands of years later and their names still uttered. This is how they interpret. When you read their interpretations of the Nile Valley, this is what they say we were doing. I disagree. I disagree. And that the melanin sacred stone synergy is the proper paradigm, is the proper historical lens for looking at what they were doing with the Karas. And that the melanin sacred stone synergy was the means by which the Kemetic priest would make an immortal body. All right? So now, within Kemet, there were 3 general forms of mummification. The most expensive involved soaking the entrail body, so they would take all of the organs out of the body and soak it in gypsum, which is a carbon-based crystal. All right? They would soak it in liquid, because gypsum is water soluble. So they would soak it in gypsum for 70 days. And it and this process would crystallize the shell, because remember all the organs have been taken out. The rest of the body would be crystallized and preserved in a remarkable state. Now, it's important to really science which, because you know Kemet spans thousands of years, multiple dynasties, right? It was the dynasties of the Amun-Ra order, the power dynasties that really held this process. The 6th through the 12th, and in particularly the 18th dynasties. Okay? And one of the most common sacred stones that you would find in the body, in the Dr.Ras, was a heart of aventurine. A heart of aventurine. Okay? As well as ankhs and jed columns and other symbols of power and stones of power placed throughout the body. Yeah, so let me back up a minute. So here you have them, all right, they're going through great extremes. It wasn't just preserving the body, because if it was, they would have left the organs and everything else up in there. No, they were preserving the melanin. And they would replace the organs with sacred stones that they felt kind of corresponded to the function that that organ served when the person was like really incarnate, you know? Because a green heart, you know, green is this life, heart of life.
Heart chakra.
Heart chakra resonates with green, you know? So here's some funerary visions. This was the burial mask of Tut Ankh Amen. And this was placed over his Dr.Ras. His solid gold, eyebrows and lids are made of lapis, eyes are of quartz and obsidian, and the stripes are colored quartz. This is the sarcophagus. This is where they would oftentimes put the bodies, right? So here you see the whole sarcophagus is just laid out with different stones, particularly carnelian, that blood of Osset. And oftentimes they would be made with gold too. Yeah, this is an important account from Herodotus to show that. Because how many people seen the National Geographic that came out last month on the black pharaohs and them trying to make a distinction between Kemet and the Napatan Meroitic dynasties of the 25th through 30th dynasties, saying, you know, they were different, distinct and different people. But nah, here's an account from Herodotus, who's who? Who do they say he is? The father of their history. All right? And now, to give you a little backdrop, because Cambyses was this Persian conqueror who had already taken the northern Nile Valley. And he already took Kemet. This is during the time. This is, you know, after the Assyrians and the Babylonians done ran through the northern regions of our land. All right? So Cambyses is coming trying to, he's, you know, in those line of conquerors, right? Because after the Persians came who? The Greeks, then the Romans, and now we in the dispensation we're in. All right? So Cambyses already took Kemet, had his eyes on Kush, so he sent these spies into Kush to just vision, because he had heard about the Kushites. The Greeks called them the Macrobian Ethiops, or the long-lived Ethiops. Like, they just had enough tradition with them. They were supposed to be long-lived. They were called the pupil smiters because they say that they could just pew, release a arrow, and it would bang and put your eye out. So they called them the pupil smiters. So Cambyses didn't want to just roll up in there, you know? So he sent some spies to see what they were dealing with. And then this was, so the spies went and they visioned out how they were living. And this was one of the things that they saw. Last of all, Cambyses' spies were, and you know what, before I go there, I should tell you, right? Because the king, the Macrobian Ethiop king, he knew they were spies. He knew they had wicked intention.
Yes, sir.
All right? And he was an elder man. He was an elder, aged king. And he took up a huge bow. They said it was like as tall as he. And he took an arrow and just shot it. Ching! Way far. And he said, look, until your king can shoot a bow and arrow just like I did, tell him he needs to give thanks that God hasn't put it in my heart to covet other people's lands. You go back and give him that message. All right? But this is one of the things they went back and said. Last of all, Cambyses' spies were allowed to behold the coffins of the Ethiopians, which were made according to the report of crystal, after the following fashion. When the dead body has been dried, either in the Egyptian or in some other manner, they cover the whole with gypsum. Here we go. Cultural affinity. And adorn it with painting until it is like the living man as possible. Then they place the body in a crystal pillar that has been hollowed out to receive it, crystal being dug up in great abundance in their country, and of a kind very easy to work. You may see the corpse through the pillar within which it lies, and it neither gives out any unpleasant odor, nor is it in any respect unseemly. Yet there is no part that is not as plainly visible as if the body was bare. The next of kin keep the crystal pillar in their houses a full year from the time of death, and give it the first fruits continually, and honor it with sacrifice. After the year is out, they bear the pillar forth and set it up near town. So here we go. They weren't putting them in sarcophagus like the Kemetic brethren, but you see the same science. You see the same science. Yes, Elder?
I was thinking that in light of the knowledge about light and crystals, with ancient Ethiopians, there might be not a possible interpretation of the terms pupil smited, because nobody was ever looked into a laser beam. But their pupils was still.
Yes, I. Give thanks. Give thanks. Yeah, so this is the lens to study our science and our history, you know. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, this is just summarizing. Yeah, so now, yeah, let's just run through this real quick. It's obvious the ancients blended their melanin in sacred stones. And they used those quartz stones that had a similar energy potential as melanin. And that quartz melanin synergy to empower and this is you know how they say, yo, how they make them, I think this is how we were making monolithic and megalithic structures. If this is my opinion. Quartz melanin synergy. And they also use stones that cleanse, realign, and electrify melanin. The synergy involved in adorning the body with sacred stone jewelry, implanting stones in cavities within the body, and that process is preserved in the Book of Coming Forth by Day. Melanin sacred stone synergy also reveals the deeper significance and process of mummification. And that we used our melanin and these stones as vehicles for the spiritual forces to commune, because Because we say what an immortal body is, but okay, what were they doing with these immortal bodies? All right, a real pious, wise elder who, this elder, he led with justness, set like a tone of prosperity and justice during his time, like incarnate, right? That's an ancestor that you want communion with. You want that ancestor to be able to reason with you and reason with people in the community, right? So they will preserve the body, like how he reasoned, and then they will place the body in the pyramids and in the temples, which are like geomantic structures, structures that are set up to kind of send out a frequency in the community. You know? So this is the spirit, remember, spiritual technology. This is what they were dealing with. So it wasn't, again, like how the Western Egyptologists would say they were vainglorious and wanted to have some pyramid that, you know, so they would be talked about for thousands of years later. No. So sacred stones were considered vehicles through which communion with ancestral spirits could occur. And Herodotus' account reaffirms that that was in Kush and Kemet. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
I got a question real quick.
Yes, I. Can we give thanks?
When you say mummification, and just a quick, how society was set up in Canada, was anyone getting mummified, or was it?
That's a good question. Because remember I mentioned that there were three types. There were three ways of mummification, but I only really mentioned one because that was like if you were of noble blood or in the priestly order and was of that status, that's how you would be preserved. But they did have other, what you might say, more economic or more humble ways of preserving the body. So, say what? There you go. Yes. Yes, brethren.
Yeah, I would say that is relative to something that you mentioned earlier when you said if you were interested in communicating with an elder who had a certain information to share or on a certain vibratory level, then you would, when they set up the body, they would do so for the spiritual technology of communication to take place. And you said that there would be 2 different levels. So, in my opinion, I would say that it was based on the spirit or the vibration of the individual too. Because if you know somebody was basically of a vile nature or somebody was becoming, then you wouldn't really want to communicate with them on that level.
Absolutely. Right. And how they would say they wouldn't be written in the book of life. Yeah, their name would not be found in the book of life. It would be as if they never exist.
And you also mentioned too about the sacrifices that were offered and everything in reference to the body and its purpose. I understand too that the purpose of tapping on the ground the horn of libation was because they would put the ancestors in the host floor, in another aspect of the culture. They would put them in the host floor, and then the tapping is significant of calling it to the vibration of the sound, and then pouring the water, which represented life.
Yes.
Another form of communication.
Yes.
Spiritual technology once again. You know?
And
Yes,
it's
sir.
connected with the earth, like when they're within the earth, it's like to tap that vibration. And it's something because in some villages, like the chief of that village, they usually like put like the remains around the village, like in different areas to protect that village, and also for that communication. And that,
Yeah, we definitely see this tradition carrying on, but not in the like elaborate form that our Nile Valley ancestors.
My take on it is like telling the sister that, you know, young black men here in America, when they're drinking, they usually throw some beer when they're drinking for their homies, and that is like carrying on tradition, and even though it's not elaborate in that sense, without that energy being preserved by a cabinet and stuff like we now in this time would not have known anything about it. So that's one way of, I think, the elaborateness of them and how they do things was a way so we in the future can learn of our past.
Absolutely.
So we can sort of make that connection.
Right.
To sort of heal ourselves.
Right. So because we just do something because we feel it inside, and then we see like, they're dealing with this.
Yes.
Absolutely. Reawaken our identity. Yeah. Because an identity is the most important thing we can have in these times.
I'm wondering if you have any interest in looking at the relationship between the symmetrical core concept of a governed crystal and the same symmetry that govern, in another way, fractals. And whether you have or have any interest in looking at what people are terming as a fractal, but African fractals. One example of which is evident in the traditional Ethiopian Coptic cross, which has its own, if you know, its own symmetry, which is a form of fractal.
True.
You know, maybe we want to consider. Also, maybe you can say something about the role of the emerald, especially in terms of green light and the stories that have come down about Tahuti.
Yes.
Emerald crystal.
Yes.
Emerald books.
Yes. Yeah, the emerald tablets. The emerald tablets of Tahuti. Yes. Yes. Well, I was going to share on like reason on different types of crystals, because so we say all this, but yeah, we're right here, right now, and hopefully we're inspired to empower ourselves, but where to begin, right? So, even though I wrote a book on crystals, and you see I've done enough research, I don't like to prescribe no use of crystals. Why? Because I feel one of the greatest gifts the mineral nation has for I and I is the gift of clear inner communication. Okay? Meaning, I'm in my movements, I come across a stone, bang, I see something, and I'm just attracted to it, and I don't know why. I don't know the name of it. I don't know nothing. I just see this thing, and I'm really, really attracted to it. Right? More often than not, if I follow my first mind, don't think long, because I'm going to think wrong, but just my spirit just tell me to do something with it. I'm going to get a healing. It's going to be like, it's going to do something that's going to either heal me, empower me, do something, right? And that will, what would I do beyond getting that healing? I'm going to trust myself a little bit more. I'm not going to look for the source of my wise mind, knowledge, understanding to be outside of myself, but to be inside of myself. So, but in saying that though, there are certain principles that we can be aware of as we come across different stones. that'll just kind of be like raw affirmation, like, okay, this is why I was attracted to this stone, you know? And I am going to share a couple of those principles real quick. And I hope to hit on the emerald through this reasoning, all right? But one of the most important principles to be aware of is the color of the stone, okay? Because if you don't know nothing else, you don't know the name of the stone, you don't know the elements that are in it, you can see the color, right? And then based on... But based on that, you're already empowered to know several ways you can deal with that stone, okay? Because I'm just sensing everyone in here is aware of the chakras and the energy systems within our body that are organized like the sound spectrum and like the color spectrum, right? And we might have different chakra systems. I know some deal with 7, some deal with 12. I personally like 8. I like clear at the crown, purple or royal blue at the first eye, yellow or sky blue at the throat, pink and green at the heart, green at the solar plexus, gold at the navel, red at your procreative, and black at your root. Okay? So again, you see a crystal, you don't even know its name. You see the color right off the bat. You know the area that you can, the area within yourself that you can use that stone on to get a healing, you know? Another important principle is to know where the crystal comes from. Is it a meteorite? What would, and see, a lot of this is like when you say common sense. What would a meteorite do?
Connect to the astral.
Connect us to the astral plane, connect us to the heavens. Historically, meteorites were our covenant stones. The black stone of the Kaaba, the heart of Islam, is a giant meteorite that was supposedly delivered to the Prophet Muhammad by the Archangel Gabriel. And more people that study biblical history would say the Ark of the Covenant didn't contain 2 tablets written by Moses, but a meteorite. And meteorite in Hebrew means is called Bethel, which means house of the Heavenly Father, house of God. Okay?
What did you just say? What's the Hebrew word?
Bethel. Bethel.
What does it mean?
House of God, house of the Heavenly Father. Yes, I. So, know where it comes from. An inner earth stone, a stone that comes deep from the mantle of the earth. That's going to be a meditation stone. That's going to take us deep within ourselves. A river stone, bring us prosperity, wash away worries, right? So we know where the stone comes from. No, and for this, we might have to get a gemology book. Get one of those field guides. They call them like field guides for gem and mineralogy, right? Because what they'll do is they'll tell you the elements that are in the stone. So find out the elements in the stone and then find out what those elements do in our body. For example, if I have an iron-based stone, what's it going to do? It's going to strengthen my blood, strengthen my overall vitality. And what's the most common iron stone called? Hematite. So hematite is going to address what? my hemoglobin. All right? We mentioned the copper, carbon, sulfur. I want to think of some others. Calcium. Yeah, what's calcium do in our bodies? All hard structures of the body. It gives us our form. Calcite gives us our form. So on a psycho-spiritual level, calcite is going to address our thought forms, our paradigms, our habits, our beliefs, the things that give structure and form to our reality. That's what calcite will deal with. Let me think of a couple more. Wow, let me think. Potassium and chloride. What are them two things? And sodium. What do those elements work primarily with? The muscles too, but and our digestive processes, that hydrochloric acid and the potassium, that big potassium and sodium are like the electrolytes of the body, right? Very important with that whole digestive assimilation process. So when you get stones that are rich in them, it helps us assimilate our experiences so I don't have to relive something over and over and over again before I get it. You know? I won't get indigestion of life. Chloride, chlorine, and apatite. Apatite is a stone that has all them elements in it. Apatite actually means deceiver, because apatite looks like emerald, or it'll look like a beryl. It looks like it's really expensive, but it's not. So apatite actually means deceiver, but it's not a deceiver. It's a blessed stone, you know. So so we got to know the elements. We got to know the colors. We got to know where the stone comes from. Okay? Let me see. Yeah, and then study the actual features of the stone. When you see a stone that comes to a point, what is that going to do? It's going to center and project, direct, heighten, focus, concentrate. Okay, because before we can project, we got to focus and concentrate. Once that energy's focused and concentrated, then it can project. So just study the physical features of the stone, you know, and that'll tell us a lot. So coming to learn the stones should really be about coming to better know thyself. You know, and that's for real. Now we'll reason on the emerald just a little bit.
I just want to add something. A few years back, scientific community claimed that they finally proven that the center of the planet is a huge iron crystal.
Absolutely, absolutely. You remember that magnetite, octahedrons? That's what's in the center of the earth. A big octahedron iron crystal. And when it moves, the magnetic poles move. That's what's causing the magnetic field of the earth, is a giant iron crystal at the core. So the core is not molten, like they used to say it was molten. The mantle is molten, but once you get to the core is crystallized. You mean the elements? Chlorine, potassium, and sodium. It looks like it. It's like, yeah, apatite will come blue, green. It'll also come have a ruddy, reddish brown. It comes in a spectrum of colors. Yes. But I'm going to mention emerald real quick, because emerald's in the beryl family. And beryls are beryllium silicates. they have silica and beryllium. Beryllium is like a trace mineral. Our body only uses it in minute amounts, but it's used in our nervous system. Okay? And just traditionally, emerald is, because of the high quality of green, emerald and a copper-based stone called dioptase. Those two have been described as the greenest green of the universe. And so they carry a love frequency, you know, and we know love is a universal force. So, and beyond just being a universal force, a healing force. So,
because in the book of Revelation, we talk about the rainbow circle throne, which I'm sure we're familiar with. It says, like unto an emerald. It don't sound like a contradiction, but they, as you say, they cycle spiritual and physical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, my brethren and sistren that can look beyond the spookism, the Bible is full of crystal science. The Bible is full from Genesis on to Revelation, you know. Well, I don't know if it's in Genesis, but of course the breastplate of Moses was 12 sacred stones inlaid, wired with a circuitry of gold. And the New Jerusalem was 12 sacred stones with the pearly gates.
Rock. The whole thing of stability and assurance is conceptualizing the term rock.
Yes, I. Yes, I. So, yeah, so that emerald, just to seal with the emerald, it, before the Western man make the diamond the symbol of eternal love, emerald was the symbol of eternal love. Yeah. I just wanted to seal that thought, Elder. Yes.
What did that Western man call that? Western woman called diamond. That sparkles. The green does not sparkle that much. The diamond sparkles. And that is what catches the Western woman's eye.
Yes, I. Yes, I. Yes, Elder.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking, anything you put on your skin actually gets into your system. Because of course your skin obviously is part of you, and all of which actually absorb. But I just kind of wonder, the same way as melanin, which actually does a lot of positive, or has a lot of positive, and when corrupted, it can actually be poisonous. Does the stone have the same kind of impact? What I'm actually looking at is, if you actually have a situation where an individual is, the mindset or whatever it is in such a state of dis-ease, can the stone, the crystal, kind of cause that one to go in the opposite, in a further negative rather than positive?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How does that
all right. One of the best indicators is, again, going forward to color. So, for example, and this is generally speaking, right? But I would be reluctant to give a hot red stone to like an Aries or a Leo.
So again, you're linking with the different...
Right, because ruby is hot. Like red ruby is a hot stone, right? So you give a red, and garnet same way. So you give a red hot stone, and I actually experienced this because one time I made beads with hematite and garnet, and I gave it to this elder I was doing some works with, and he was a Scorpio brethren, martial artist, and yeah, it just ignited his flames too intense, you know. So yeah, definitely.
So if I may just...
Yes.
So in the sense that in terms of understanding all this, one must therefore have a sound knowledge before you actually acquire these things. Because of course you don't really want to actually create an environment where you are going to actually have a negative response to, you know, the something which is positive.
Right.
That's why what I think you said first is we have intuition.
Right.
And sometimes we're so busy looking at the outside, oh, that looks pretty. And we really have to feel the vibration of something.
A lot of us don't.
Yeah, we just look at the outside and want to grab it because it looks. And looks are deceiving. So you really have to use, I feel you're truly, really feel, oh, no, oh, that looks clear and pretty. You know, but what is your inner self telling you? Because sometimes that's not what we need.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I will say there's 3 colors that, generally speaking, are omniversal, meaning they don't have no counterindication. And these are actually like blended colors, purple, green, and orange.
They're safe, so to speak.
So to speak, so to speak. But just, you know, to build on Aymar, yeah, if what I would say is not so much like you need to have a big knowledge base as much as be aware of yourself and in tune to yourself. So if you got a certain stone on, see how, you know, you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to yourself. You can't be mindless about it.
The reason why I was saying somebody who's in dis-ease, because when you're in dis-ease, you don't necessarily have that intuit working in the right way.
Yes. Yes, yes. So yeah, you know, just like with any tool, you have to, you know, there's safety procedures in using the tool. Definitely. And there are some stones that are toxic.
Malachite.
Yeah, you know, like you don't want to ingest some stones. Some stones might have traces of arsenic in them, you know. So yeah, that's what I say, get one of those field guides, right? I'll be honest, like the Melanie books, the books like, you know, this is a metaphysical stone. If you hold it in your left hand, it invokes meditation. You know, I don't really resonate with those because why? For a couple of reasons. Number one, right? Let's say I take that book at its face value, right? That okay, amethyst. Amethyst is for it's a meditation stone, and I'm supposed to put it on my forehead, right? And that's what it says. All right, that might be true, but guess what? Amethyst for me might have, like if I just went with my intuition, right? I might have been moved to use it a whole next way, and it'd be very personally empowering for me. But because I read what Melanie said, my head's not even there. I'm not even open to that. But if I have a field manual that tells me the elements that are in the amethyst, where it's from, all those things, and I got that in my heavens, and then I just use my inner knowing on how to work with it, I'm going to get insight into myself and the amethyst. You know? Yes?
What does it take on birthstones and how they relate to it?
There is, well, number one, there's a whole lot of different lists out. You know, some are biblical, some are commercial, right? Some go by months. They'll say January, February. Some go by signs. You know, Aries, Pisces. So, but yeah, that is a valid science. Because what is that called? Consubstantiation. We are all of the same substance, all of the same elements. So the elements that are in we are the elements that are in the crystals. So the seasons tell us which elements within us are active or not. You know, I'm a watcher man. You know, I'm super Pisces. So we got fire brethren, earth brethren, air brethren, all them elements, you know, and they all come together in different combinations. And the crystals, some crystals complement and exalt certain elements. You know, so there is validity to that science. Yes.
Do you claim your sons?
Excellent question. Excellent question. Excellent question. She said, do we cleanse the crystals? All right. Now, this is a complex question. No, I'm thankful. I'm thankful because this is for real. But let's say I have a good brethren, right? Right? I like interacting and being around this brethren. This brethren, when I'm in his presence, we build, right? But it isn't a thing like I got to come by the brethren and brush some sage on him or burn some frankincense to get that strength from him, right? Unless that brethren, him was just for whatever, you know, more time me and the brethren build is good, but this brethren was in the bar. Like his cousin came in town. He took his cousin his cousin was on that frequency. They went to the bar. So then when I link with my man, he got some funny vibes. Right? And that happens from time. Our frequencies change from time to time. And that's a reality. You know? So yeah, I might have to burn some frankincense before I sit down and build with this brethren. You know? So it's the same with the crystals. More time. Like what I do, one of the things I do, and that's what the last presentation is going to be on, is I make it a point every year to go to the Tucson Gem and Minerals show. Because this is the largest gem and minerals show in the world. About 100,000 people from all over the world come. It's in February. I just reached from it. But people from every nation, race, and tongue are there, and they just got one thing in common. That's the love of crystal. And this is the one opportunity that you can get sacred stones without that corporate hand being in it. I can meet a brethren from Peru, just like myself, a little humble brethren from Peru, but he likes crystals, and he has the crystals from Peru. Or a brethren from the Congo, where I get my malachite from, African brethren who owns a copper mine in the Congo, you know? So who you get your stones from determines a lot about if you have to clean them, you know? But also what you're doing with them. If you're doing body works, right? Like doing layouts and working on different people, it wouldn't be wise to do works on one person, right? And then don't clean your crystals and then go and start working on a next person. Just like a surgeon wouldn't operate on one person and then operate on the next and not clean and sterilize his instruments, you know? And there's some stones that, like if there's a stone that the way I'm using it, right? I don't want other people's energies on it. I'm not going to just let other people deal with it, you know? And I say that, and why I'm addressing it this way, because a lot of people tend to be like on that extreme thing about cleansing the crystals, you know? Like, don't touch my stone, and, you know, want a sage and frankincense, just, you know. But what I found, you could chant a psalm on your crystal. You could chant a psalm on your crystal and clean it. You can hold your crystal and clean it. You know, there's many ways of cleansing your crystal. Put it on a tree. Let it get sunlight. Let it get moonlight. You know? And again, if you're in tune, you'll know if you have to clean it. The vibes will tell you. So again, it's really ultimately, again, anything you do with the crystals, it should ultimately be attuning yourself to your reality a little better. You know? So look, let's look at this next one. Because, yes, Elder.
Given the importance of Coltrane today, can you say anything about it?
Say what?
Coltrane.
Coltrane.
That element, you know, called.
I'm not familiar with it.
It's so important in cell phone technology that people are dying by the millions in the Congo.
Oh, yeah. I'm not familiar with it as far as its metaphysical properties, but I know what you're speaking on. All right. Now, this Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. If you are so blessed, you need to go and experience Tucson in February. Tucson is a small, sleepy city about 60 miles from Mexico. And it don't have nothing jumping off except for the first 2 weeks of February, where the population almost doubles. So many people come in town. All right? And, yeah. It's the largest gem and mineral show in the world. So yeah, like I say, every year, Creator willing, I'm there, all right? Because it's really not just one show. It's about 40 different shows spread throughout the city, about 25 different locations. And one show might have 1,000 vendors, all right? It's, and you're gonna meet all types of people there. You're going to meet all types of people. Cats that live in caves. Them so deep into the earth. Them live in caves. Harvesting crystals. And only come out to come and deal this scene. You know? And you meet a lot of people on a metaphysical, spiritual frequency. You meet people from every nation, race, and tongue. And they all got one thing in common, and that's the love of minerals. There's a 4-ton amethyst. So the show's been going on since 1955, and it actually just started out with like the Arizona Gem and Mineral Society. They would have like an annual show. But their thing was to get the most exotic crystals they could find and put it on display. And so their show got hot, and the Smithsonian started getting involved. Other like museums and big type institutions started getting involved, and it kind of grew to be this international show that it is now, you know? And yeah, like I say, about 100,000 people attend every year from about 40 different countries. Now, one thing you learn when you go to Tucson, the gem and mineral and crystal industry is big, big business. I got that number up here. Let me see. Nah, this is just some, saying that, we've been dealing with them on a trading, like we've given them value for a very long time, Beyond just being a sign of status But more often, like, and this is very important for these times of economic instability, because what? The dollar is what? The dollar is not worth the paper it's printed on now. The dollar is not worth the paper it's printed on now. A quarter is worth more intrinsically than the dollar, because at least a quarter got some precious metal in it. This is for real. All right? So, you know, the thing with gems and minerals is that they're portable assets. And as a Moorish brethren told me, they're portable land. A Moorish brethren blocked that sound. He said that crystals is not just portable assets, it's portable land. But worldwide, $50 billion a year is spent on crystals. And that's from that's the whole spectrum. That's from like getting rough ores to buying a finished gold diamond ring, platinum, whatever, you know. The whole spectrum is $50 billion a year. And the U.S., we do about $9 billion of that. We about 1/5 of that $50 billion. All right. This is, I had a shop in Filthy, and this was it. Yeah, I had some transformation, so I let the shop go, but that's a image of it. So now the African presence. Say what? That was amethyst. Amethyst geodes.
Can you say anything about the color purple? Not the movie. Because there's an interesting thing in Exodus, about a relationship between three colors, which ordinarily we see anyway. But essentially, those are the colors that were supposedly given to Moses as the official colors.
It's purple and what?
Purple in the middle, red and blue. It's really when you red and blue together.
Yeah, it makes purple. Yes. Sure. Sure. Well, amethyst, the word amethyst is a Greek word that means without drunkenness, sober-mindedness. Okay? And amethyst clears the mind. It drains the sinuses. It improves vision. It balances left and right hemisphere of the brain. So we can be intuitive and logical. Balance.
Interesting with the purple is that a part of the spectrum that includes the ultraviolet.
Absolutely.
The balance between the red's going that way and the blue's going that way.
Oh, amethyst is... It's the gateway to the ultraviolet. You're absolutely right. Because ultra means beyond. So there's the energy beyond violet you're moving on the energy frequencies beyond optical, higher than optical. Yes. And our spirit is ultraviolet. So yes, that's all right, sister.
When the stones are cut or shaped, like in the previous life, does that take away from its potential or enhance its potential?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Yes. The sister asked if a man cut and polish and fashion the stone, is that enhancing its qualities or is it taking away from the qualities? And again, that's very relative. Number one, it depends on who's doing it. If a man has a vision of like a power tool and crafts, takes stone and craft it, I don't see anything wrong with that. But most of this, where is this being made?
India.
India? Under what conditions? Sweatshops. Sweatshops. Yeah, commercial vibe. Commercial vibe. So these, I would definitely sage down.
Yeah.
I'd run some frankincense and Florida water on these right here, you know. I'd bless these up, you know.
What about if it's like a product
Yeah, me, myself, I like some cut and polished stones. I do. But I prefer stones in their natural state. But some stones, and for example, rose quartz doesn't terminate. All right? Even though this is quartz, it's not going to come to a point like this. And this has actually been polished. All right? This hasn't been cut. But it has been polished. All right? And it brings out the beauty. It's beautiful, you know? But rose quartz will not grow in a point, in a termination. So if you just get rose quartz rough, yeah, it's not easy doing body works with. You lay it on your body, you're going to scratch up your skin. It's not going to be symmetrical, it won't rest well. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is better to get it cut and polished. Yes.
Rose quartz, you see them shaped like a heart a lot of times. You got circles and you got heart shapes.
Right.
Rose quartz.
Well, that's the green is serpentine.
Right, but I've seen like the rose quartz shaped like hearts.
Like hearts, yes.
But green is synonymous with the heart chakra.
And pink.
So it's pink. Right. But why is, I mean, I know rose quartz is like this love and, you know.
Yes.
That's why they shape it like a heart. But really, I mean, what's the real purpose why it's always shaped like a heart?
Because pink heals the heart. Yeah, pink heals the heart. Self-love, self-acceptance, forgiveness are the key words of pink. Yeah, forgiving self and others. That pink frequency opens that up. And pink and green work well together in healing the heart.
You know, I see a lot of, the reason I ask that because you see more rose quartz shaped like hearts than you see even green.
Yes. Yes. Because rose is considered the heart healer. Yeah, like on the commercial vibe. I think rose is associated with the heart healer. Yes.
Is there like a different way to use the stone based on like if you just allow the sunlight to hit it, or if you allow a natural, I guess like magnetic or radiation from the universe to do its job? Like does it create like a different effect? You know what I'm saying? You use it with the sunlight. Does that have a different effect as to just using it at nighttime?
Definitely. Clear quartz and sunlight is very powerful. Remember, clear quartz is to the planet that melanin is to the human. So when we use the clear quartz to channel some sunlight, yeah, you're getting a lot of powers. You're getting a lot of powers, yes.
So I thought like with amethyst, it's not good out in the sun.
Thank you for bringing that up. The sister said she had heard it's not good to have amethyst in the sun. Yeah, to have amethyst exposed to sunlight over a long period of time. I'm not talking about just going out and doing some work with amethyst in the sun, but let's say you put amethyst in a window where every day, particularly this Florida sun, it's going to bleach. Just like if you left a piece of fabric in the sun, let's say you had a piece of fabric, half of it got sunlight every day and half of it didn't. Over time, you would notice that half that got sunlight was sun-bleached. Amethyst can be sun-bleached too. And when you start out with a rich purple, after the sun bleach, it'll come like a pale violet.
It makes sense because the ultraviolet rays from the sun will do. Just like if you shine green light on a green, something green.
Right, it'll white out the green. Absolutely.
Like you were saying, like everything is vibration, and the organs in our body, like resonate different, like send out certain frequencies, like the crystals. and I think the vibration of the rose quartz balances or brings that, it's like if something is out of balance, the rose helps to bring it into that same vibration.
Absolutely. And another way I like to look at it, we have to be able to give and receive love. That's why the heart resonates with both pink and green. And pink strengthens our ability to receive love, right? And in order to receive love, what we got to feel? We got to feel worthy. And before we feel worthy, we got to forgive ourselves. And a big part of forgiving ourselves is just having a frequency of forgiveness. So that's what pink opens up. And then once we have that, then we have to share love. And that's the green, that omniversal, universal love force, green. Yes?
Just want to make a statement, and I would like you to just kind of, if you can respond in a way. I don't know how it's going to come out, but, we speak about crystals, which are actual manifest, concrete, molecular structures, as you say, in an organized fashion. And you talk about how it can impact the human being positively and be used for many different things. I'd like you to expound a little bit on the role that thought, being the energy that creates, how that works, and how we can utilize as human beings our thought energy to unlock the doorways or mysteries of the earth, so that the universe, can give us what we need to create the actuality that we need to be living in as our reality.
All right. Well, the first thing I would mention is that we should all familiarize ourselves with the works of Dr. Emoto. Are we familiar with that? The hidden messages of water. The hidden messages of water, where he showed, this is a scientist, the first scientist who's been able to, like, scientifically, and why I really respect Dr. Emoto, because even though he's a scientist who's down with the scientific method, when you read his teachings, you could tell he's very human. He's not one of those disconnected scientists who would allow his inventions or his discoveries to be used, on some old destructive vibe. His whole science is his thing, he wanted to find, okay, how can we solve, what is the least common denominator that would transcend any religion, any whatever. And the reality is we all are 70% water. And no matter what tradition or whatever we come from, we mostly water. But what Dr. Emoto has shown through his research is that our thoughts have a great impact on how water crystallizes. So if we put out a thought or put out a word or even write love and gratitude and expose water to that and then freeze that water and take a look at the water crystals that are formed, it's going to be beautiful water crystals. But if we put stupid, I hate you, or something like that, expose the water to that energy, then the water doesn't crystallize. And it creates distorted, ugly, malformed shapes in the water. So what that is showing us is that the omniverse, that really, and you know what? All the elements do that. All the elements respond to our thought. It's just that water, because it's more fluid, it'll respond quicker than an earth crystal. Okay? But on another level, quartz crystal another way I look at these is like the omniversal microphone. So that if I'm chanting like, all right, why did Moses make the breastplate with 12 sacred stones? Because these men were doing priestly works. They was chanting their psalms and using their word sound power to increase the spiritual energy for the nation, right? So they wanted to use tools, just like we use a microphone to broadcast the voice, so the voice has a greater range, impact more ears. Amplify. Quartz does the same thing with our thoughts and feelings, because we don't create just with thought alone. What we think and what we feel is the reality we create. Yes?
It's very interesting that you bring feeling into play. And I think many of us in the cultural community and here at the Holistic Arts Center, we strive to encourage all our people that come in here to begin to develop themselves and cultivate themselves as far as mind management is concerned. Mind management simply means, and also everything that you've shown us here today, that gives us the ability to retrieve the control of our creative energy. And thought is the energy that we use to create, and the feeling, the emotions that we carry. Many of us have emotions, we're very emotional because we have a lot of issues as far as male-female relationship, economics, you know, you name it.
Right.
Socioeconomic levels and all
Right.
things. So,
Right.
you know, it's very important that throughout your lecture, I'm hearing you speaking about not prescribing crystals and whatnot, and I think you're very on point when you mention the ability to just relate, you know, knowing yourself and having a little more trust and faith in your own innate ability to have a relationship with the gem and crystal world.
And that idea of mind management, that's exactly why I don't. Because crystals are an excellent tool to discover how to manage your mind and have that clear inner communication. Yes. All right, so now, African people, we're well represented in Tucson. You wouldn't even know it. It's like, what? But yes, there's enough of we in Tucson. As a matter of fact, there's an African art village that has about 40, 50 vendors from all over the continent. Here's a brethren from Mali who focus on the Dogon doors, you know. If we got any Philly heads in the house, well, I know did you know Brother Hussein? This is a brethren. He born and raised in Philly. This is who turned me on to the show. He was a teacher at Gratz High School, which is like an inner city school in Philly, was their track coach for about 30 years. And when he retired, he's an artist too. If you see the woodworks, right? So when he retired, he just moved out west, lived the life of an artist, just going around vending. And so he was the first one to tune me into the show, and this is his spot at the African Art Village. So if you ever go out there, you have to go to African Art Village, find Brother Hussein, and he'll give you a good lay of the land. All right, this wasn't at the African Art Village, but you see where the arrow's pointing to this brethren right here? That's a Congo man who has the highest quality malachite in the world. Just known, this man got the highest quality in the world. Now, where you see these little pieces of paper right there? That says sold. By the time I got to him this year, The man was sold out. A Japanese man. This Japanese man bought his whole thing. So I had to go find a next brethren from the Congo. Yeah, this is malachite.
How can you tell it's the highest? Because most of our seen was like that. So how do you know it's the highest?
If you notice, this has blue chrysocolla in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And again, just the frequency. For me, when I deal with this man's malachite, it's like I feel it. You know, I feel this brethren. I look for him every year. And I like the quality of what him have. And how we know too, because like I said, by the time I got there, I was too late. The Japanese man just was like, give me your whole shop.
I have a question. That is...
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, do you study the deities that are represented by the stones? Because with the malachite, it represents Osar. The lapis lazuli represents Nut, the story-eyed sevens. So do you go deep like that?
Maybe not that deep. Yeah. But give thanks. Yes, I.
This is what the Asian man is trying. That is the malachite, or that is green?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
It is green?
Yes. Malachite is green. And we know, well, I know the name malachite. I got something deep for you. All right? Malachite means the king's stone. Like Malik, Malachi means king. Malachite is the king's stone. And when you think about a king, right? A king have to act noble. You can't be noble and not in control of your emotions. You can't be a wise leader and rash in your decisions. You know? So malachite.
The name, for example, in the biblical book Malachi came before the word being used for stone.
I'm sorry, brethren?
You're saying because it's the one where the word, name, Malachi, as for example, especially in the Old Testament.
It's a book in the Bible.
Oh, the book of Malachi, yes.
Which one came first? The name used for the stone, and then the name used for the book. Indicate another meaning to the book.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I do know that malachite cleans up our emotions. Malachite cleans up our emotions.
We've heard that it's toxic unless it's polished.
Yeah, malachite can toxify the body.
In powdered form.
Yes. 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 Another question. Yes.
See that, like under it?
Yes.
Malachite, it's like, was that regular rock or?
No, that's that just hadn't been polished. Yeah.
So that's like regular rock. That's what it is.
Well, it's malachite is copper oxide, so it's the ore of copper. It's the ore of copper. All right. Now, malachite often grows with a trinity of stones. Azurite, which is copper carbonate, and chrysocolla, which is copper silicate. All right? So the azurite will come a deep, rich royal blue. Chrysocolla will come more of a sky blue. Okay?
Blue and green are colors to do with copper generally.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Isn't the azurite is a combination of lapis and malachite?
No.
Is it not?
No. Azurite is copper carbonate. Now, azure and lazuli mean the same thing, which is like royal blue. All right? I think that might be how they got related. All right? These are, this is kind of a challenging scene, but I took a picture of it. All right? The Shona of Southern Africa. Them had a tradition where, like, kind of like the indigenous from Australia, where they would have like a dream time tradition, where the Shona would get into that mystical state, and they would receive a vision of where a piece of verde stone is, which is a stone from the mantle of the earth. It's like serpentine. They would get a vision of where the stone is and a vision of what to carve it. And then go out. This was like part of their initiation. And they would go out and get it and make it, right? But when neo-colonial forces came, they stopped that indigenous practice because those forms would be really abstract. You might still see some like that, like big round faces, and it's kind of an abstract.
Because the people of that region, Zimbabwe and Shona people, have this ancient tradition of stonework.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. But now they make tourists, they go and get the stone, but them carve tourist things. You know? So, I mean, you still got the Ras, elder, and the African. This is a beautiful piece of verde. Verde means green. Green serpentine. You know? It's still beautiful works, but this is also really speaking to them losing that tradition. You know? Here's a close-up. You see they call it verde. You see the green in it. You know, the green texture in it. And these are very powerful stones. If you were ever, like I say, these are from the mantle of the earth. So they're not even from the crust. They're from deep within the earth. They have a different density. When you look at it, you would anticipate it to be one weight based on, you know, the size of a rock that we're familiar with. But then you pick it up and it's like, whoa. It have a next density of weight to it.
You know who has some in their shop? Sister Winnie.
Sister Winnie, okay.
Has Shona.
Has the Shona, yes, side.
Yeah, I know.
What's the significance of the serpentine?
Serpentine is a inner earth stone. Takes us deep within ourselves. Yeah. And it's a I see serpentine as a fortifier. No, it's not copper. It's, I'm not even sure the elements that are in it. I'm not even sure the elements. But they're dense, so they like dense up. They dense up our energy field. And they fortify.
Black hole theory, density increases.
Yes. Yes.
So purely at the core of a planet, the density is going to be such that the next step into the certain thing is actually imploding into itself. It's the density of stuff that are closer to the center.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, here's like a quick survey of some of the brethren that, like, the different countries represented and the stones that are coming out of there. Ethiopia is well represented with the opal. Ethiopian opals are very big out there. Tanzanite is very, very hot. It's ridiculously priced. I can only imagine having a piece. Yeah, it's like that. It's ridiculously priced. Tanzanite is blue. It's all right. The highest quality Tanzanite by nature is blue. But what they'll do a lot of times is get the lower quality Tanzanite, which is kind of greenish, and then put it in the oven, heat it up, and then it'll turn blue. But either one is just crazy expensive. A little piece like this might be like $5,000. Something ridiculous.
In terms of color, is there such thing as the highest color vibration?
Well, I did mention that The dioptase and emerald is sometimes called the greenest green of the universe.
I mean, like, you know, like each color carries a frequency of vibration. Correct?
Yes.
Which color would you say would obtain, is it the same color you're telling me now, would contain the
highest frequency
of color vibration?
I would have to say those are purple stones.
Purple stones, bro.
Yeah, I would have to say this purple.
And the reason?
Because purple is the gateway to ultraviolet. Ultraviolet is a shade of purple, and ultra is beyond. And purple is the fastest vibrating color. Red is the slowest vibrating color.
Yeah, because some literature mentioned blue, you know, blue, and you know, you have different shades of blue. I don't know if purple falls within, or blue falls within the same family.
Well,
Blue flows into purple.
yeah, blue flows into purple. Oh, and the phenakite, yes. Yeah, the sister has is bringing up phenakite, and phenakite is a very high frequency crystal. It tends to be translucent or yellowish. It's a beryllium silicate. And the thing with phenakite is, remember when we were looking at that the molecular orders? Imagine a molecular structure that makes a 12-pointed star. And that's the molecular structure of phenakite. And that's why they say it has a really high frequency. But Madagascar, yes, brethren?
Yeah, I was going on YouTube the other day and I typed up physics, and it was showing how they use liquid nitrogen on top of a stone to magnetize it, and it showed how it levitated another magnet on top of it, like suspended it in midair, and it had beryllium in it. So I was trying to see what other two compounds together would make that metal.
I'm not sure. You saying what makes beryllium?
No, beryllium was in the stone that they used to magnetize it with the liquid nitrogen. And when it was magnetized, they put another magnet, a silver magnet on top of it, and it literally levitated. It stayed suspended in midair. So I was trying to see which one, what stones together melted or put together could create that.
I'm not really sure, brethren. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'd have to cite that. The tanzanite. Tanzanite. Yeah. Tanzanite is, because it's hot now. I think a lot of tanzanite jewelry is, yeah, it's just, you know, it's a hot stone. And Morocco has a lot of beautiful specimens coming out of it. Those Atlas Mountains produce a lot of calcites, pyrites, and quartz specimens. But yeah, it is an international scene, you know. And you have to be international out there to really get a fullness of it, you know. These are some Brazilian brethren. Brazil got a lot of power stones coming out of them, you know. Yeah, most of the amethyst we get is coming out of Brazil.
Amethyst is not used to filter energy. That's what I first understood of amethyst. That it's used to filter negative energy and just transform it into positive energy and sends it back up.
There's a number.
That was my first understanding of it. I don't know if it's right or not.
That sounds like Melanie said that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the next question is, what is your opinion of mood stones?
Mood stones?
Yeah.
Those are man-made. And those are liquid crystals.
That's why they're so cheap then.
Yeah. Those are liquid crystals that respond to heat. Change color depending on heat. And you know what? And you know what's inside of it? You know what's the foundation of liquid crystals, even the LCD displays? Cholesterol. Cholesterol. Yeah. Yeah, so here's some amazing treasures. Here's some of the amazing treasures that you'll see in Tucson. Some amethyst geodes. Look at that. That's a giant quartz, like what?
And they're all double terminated.
Yeah, this. You know what? I'm not sure, but they mounted it on a wooden display. I think it is natural. I think it is natural.
Some of it looks like it's polished, like on the top.
Yeah, this thing was amazing.
Right there? Yes. You know what, Rasmus?
Yes.
The brethren just asked me, see this piece here looks like a man and a woman inside there together. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. You see the shadow?
Yeah,
right
there's
there?
his head.
Right in there.
Yeah, this is Brazil. This is Brazil. They got petrified tree trunks. Whole, like, trunks of trees. If I was standing up, this is my height. Whole tree trunk petrified. 200-pound crystal balls. Yeah. Yeah, no. These were cut and polished. But I'm just saying, they're like, you know, a 200-pound crystal ball. You know what they do with these? Those big fountains. They put them on those water. And so you don't see it here, but a little distance away, they have the bases to put the crystal on and run a garden hose, and then you have the fountain. They were expensive. They were expensive. Yeah. Yeah. This is Brazilian citrine celestial, $18,000. But beautiful. Very beautiful. Yeah, so someone asked, like, you know, cutting and polishing, does it take away or exalt? I could tell whoever made this, their heart was in this. Their heart was in this. And so this piece got some powers, you know? That's just an amazing amethyst.
Spirit quartz. Amethyst spirit.
Here's a next amethyst with a calcite phallus. It was just this huge calcite. Now this, they were doing silent auction, and bids started at $30,000. Nah. Yeah, you just had to submit your bid, and at the end of the show, like, you put your bids in a box, and at the end of the show, they worked it out. Yes.
What type of conditions is necessary for a stone like that to develop?
Pressure.
So I mean, it could be unearthed anywhere then, right?
Well, this is Brazilian. Yeah, you know, quartz is pretty abundant. Quartz is pretty abundant. It's just some places the quality of the quartz is better. Like, some of the best quality clear quartz in the world comes out of Arkansas, the Ouachita Mountains. All right? Some of the highest quality clear quartz in the world comes out of Arkansas. Brazil is known for their celestial quartz and their amethyst and citrine. But yeah, you can find quartz.
So on rocky terrain kind of?
You find the Congo in that.
Say what?
Congo.
The Congo has so many minerals.
Because it seems to me that, given the plate tectonic theory, given the fact that the Congo basin has all these things, interestingly, across the Atlantic, Brazil,
Right.
is part of the world, you fit naturally into that that Bay of Benin.
Yes.
It shows that, and I stumbled across this very interesting website a couple of days ago. This is Saturday websites that not the geologists, I think people who prospect for minerals and oil and stuff use that to look at the ancient, for example, planetary impact and stuff that indicate how crucial and why the Congo Basin area, with the African plate being the oldest plate on the planet, why it is so dense and so rich,
and mineral.
Of minerals and other things. Because it's so ancient, that particular part of the earth.
Yes, yes. And generally speaking, my brethren, mountain ranges is where you'll find a lot of diverse minerals in one place. But like I said, quartz, they got quartz in North Carolina and Virginia and Pennsylvania. But if you were to see it, they'd be milky. You know, it wouldn't be like, you'd be like, wow, you know, it wouldn't really catch your eye. This is some more of those Shona commercial carvings. You know, how even though it's they beautiful works, but again, you know, it's not. It's a testament that they're not doing that tradition. Yeah. Yeah. So you see that verde. You see them veins of green running through there. You know.
It looks like metal.
Yeah, because again, that's that dense serpentine, you know, from the mantle of the earth. And that even says something, like what you were just reasoning on, that you can find pieces of the mantle of the earth on the surface of the earth in Africa below that Congo Basin.
It's an up-pushing as a result of a certain impact that took place that I'm talking about.
Huh.
There's a certain planetary impact that evidently took place in what is now the Congo Basin area. Probably older and more powerful than what happened in Yucatan 65 million years ago.
Huh.
So part of that pushing up of things from the mantle upwards results in some of these things.
Huh.
Result of that.
Shifting is going to go on right now. In the next 5 years to 10 years, shifting of the core, the inner core of the earth is going to move. So a lot of places, some places going to sink, some places going to rise.
Yes. And that is that countdown to 2012.
So, yeah. I say Jesus are coming out there. I say Jesus are coming.
So yeah, here's a real unique amethyst geode. Yeah, giant quartz. This one is 15 feet tall. This one right here, 15 feet. That's giant cluster, yes. I don't think so. Nah. Right. Some. Tuning forks. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's interesting you mentioned that, because a brethren that I link with out here is he's a holistic practitioner, and he's into this science called acutonics that uses tuning forks on acupuncture points. And while we were out there, you know, him had the vision to integrate the crystals with it. And that was some of the things we were doing while we were out there. Yeah, look at that. That's something amazing. Yes.
Pendulums.
Yes.
Your opinion, and do you have any?
I don't have any here, but yeah, pendulums are. Who was the elder asking about the mind discipline? Mind management, right? Yeah, pendulums are very good for managing the mind and tuning into your energy field and learning your polarity. Definitely. And it just requires discipline.
Because it picks up on the vibration of something and you can relate to it and know
Absolutely.
that it's relative.
Absolutely.
And you can use your body as a pendulum.
That is true. Human pendulum.
Any reason why they hold this event every February? Any ritual reason behind it? Because we're talking about energy.
Right.
We're talking about all the nations coming together on one particular month.
Well, it is that Aquarian, right, it is in that Aquarian time. But I don't think they're consciously dealing it. Because, again, the ones who kicked this off, they weren't on no metaphysical vibe. They were on the rock hound. I just like rocks. I mean, you meet cats that when I tell you that this man lived in a cave, he loved rocks so much. The man loves rocks so much, he lives in a cave. Yes. He comes out just to come here, and then he goes back to his cave. You know?
Africa, as Africans, went into Europe went into an ice age. They had to go underground for survival.
Yes.
Right? And that is why in their DNA system is totally different from us. They are African. They don't want to admit it, but they are African.
Yes.
Because creator who don't shine.
Moki marbles.
Creator of the problem.
Moki marbles.
That's all. That comes up every day.
So yeah, you know, I've done a lot of blah, blah, blah. And I thank y'all for your, look, I know it takes more energy to listen than it does to reason. And y'all have been very attentive and supportive for hours, even after waiting for my delay. So all I could do is extend enough love and thanks to you. Yes, sir.